to a local San Marcos music staple. All that and more coming up next on Studio A. Hello and welcome to Studio A. I'm your host, Adriana Ruiz, and we have a great show lined up for you today. Joining me today are Imari Mora, Daniel Herrera, Rebecca Mendoza, and Holly Henrichsen. It's April, and that means it's time for a Texas State tradition. Studio A's Kayla Giles tells us how students came and helped a couple who had more important things to focus on.
Bobcats had the chance to get their hands dirty for a day of service to give back to the community. One organization got a chance to help a couple with their home after an unexpected illness set them back from remodeling.
Well, I'm a disabled vet, so I can't really lift things, and I've got cancer, so it helps a lot having people here that are young and strong and can move the heavy things for me.
Not only is this a good opportunity for students, but it lends a helping hand to those who need it.
12 acres of land is a lot for Dan and Kathy Ball to handle, so on this Saturday, 30 students helped rake leaves, relocate a chicken coop, and pull weeds out of the garden.
Dan's not able to do a lot of things, so this really was a good way for us to be able to do the things that we couldn't do. It really does help. It doesn't, you know, he used to be able to do all that all the time.
For those who volunteer for Bobcat Build, a chance to help someone in need gives them a selfless sense of accomplishment.
It's hard owning all this land and trying to maintain it like every day, all the animals and things like that. So knowing that we're coming to help them and help them with like months of work in just a couple of hours is really nice.
If you're interested in joining Bobcat Build or joining the committee, visit www.bobcatbuild.txstate.edu. Sometimes getting around can be a little bit tricky. And Rebecca, you had a chance to speak with some people about some alternative forms of transportation?
I did, and I actually found out that the university has a whole department dedicated to alternative transportation, and they encourage students to use shuttles and even bikes.
Cool, let's go ahead and check it out.
Year after year, San Marcos, with its small town feels, continues to prove that it's actually not so small after all. The 2012 census showed that the city's population is growing at a rate of 8% each year. More people means more cars, and that's led to a growing effort to encourage people to use alternative transportation.
I think it's so funny when you see people going to the gym in a car or in a bus.
Apart from reducing pollution and traffic in the area, Vote says there are other rewarding results from leaving the car at home.
Health, monetary, meaning it's cheaper, and sort of ease of use.
The university offers different forms of alternative transportation, including shuttles and whole departments dedicated to just bikes.
More than 85% of the city's population is made up of students. Luke Joy is one of those students. He made the switch to bicycling 2 years ago. He hopes more students ditch the car and ride a bike to see the city in a whole new way.
I noticed that you start to realize more about the city than you do when you're driving your car. When you're driving your car, it's more mundane and a little bit easier, so you don't pay attention as much as you do on the bike.
That's a really cool story, Rebecca. Can you tell us a little bit about maybe how difficult it is to transition into using alternative forms of transportation?
Well, actually, it's just like any other change in our lives. It's hard at first, but once we start seeing the benefits that we can actually get from it, then it just becomes a habit.
So can you tell us about some different types of transportation that maybe a lot of people don't know about?
Well, the main one would be walking. We don't really consider walking alternative transportation, but it's actually alternative transportation. But there's also other ones like shuttles, buses, and even trains.
And what would you say that the benefits are of using these different alternative methods of transportation?
Well, aside from, personal benefits like a healthier life and a better lifestyle, there's actually evidence that it will improve air quality in the city, and it'll also reduce traffic.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for that story. And as you said, alternative transportation helps the environment. Daniel, you actually found a story that helps the environment and veterans.
Sure did. So the Peace Paper Project had actually set up at Texas State to help veterans repurpose their old uniforms and decommissioned uniforms into sheets of paper.
Very cool. Let's go ahead and check that out.
From military stations to military stationery, this process is a sight to see. The Peace Paper Project joins Texas State to give veterans an opportunity to repurpose their old uniforms into sheets of paper.
It's kind of a reminder of your service, and it really is nice to have those mementos that you can frame and put up, and I feel like I get more use out of it that way than just a uniform sitting in the closet.
The uniforms are cut, grinded, scooped, molded, and set to dry overnight with a design of the maker's choice.
For these veterans, it's more than just a way to recycle their old uniforms.
It basically allows the non-veteran students to come forward and say, what are you doing? And then the veterans themselves are able to engage in a dialogue about their service and what it's like to be a student veteran at Texas State University.
Peace Paper is set up on the quad to draw students passing by and uses papermaking as a social engagement tool.
And it's just kind of this really unique opportunity to reduce the military-civil divide a little bit right here on our campus.
That's a really neat story. Can you kind of tell us about how long it takes to create a sheet of paper?
So from the cutting of the uniform initially to grinding it up into the pulp and molding it into the shape that you want, the materials and the shapes, and pressing it and drying it takes about 24 hours.
How many times has the Peace Paper Project come to Texas State?
So this is actually their 6th time coming, and they have a really good relationship with the VA association here at Texas State, and that's why they keep coming, and the members are really they really embrace the Peace Paper Project.
And where else have they gone, and what else have they done?
So the Peace Paper Project has gone all around the country, as well as countries in Europe like Belgium. And as far as the individual centers that they set up, they set up at VA hospitals as well as women's health centers, where they help victims of sexual assault and violence to repurpose clothing that they associate with their trauma and recycle it and, in a way, repurpose it to own it.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for joining and telling us about your experience. Coming up next, activists rallied at the Capitol, and we'll speak to students about how stereotypes have affected them. Stay tuned.
Looking to sell your fresh, homegrown, or homemade goods? The San Marcos Farmers Market might be the place for you. From produce and baked goods to arts and crafts, what you find may surprise you. You can stop by and have a snack while you walk around and browse. Also, live music from local artists helps keep shoppers entertained. The vendors provide a friendly atmosphere that adds a sweet touch to the farmers market experience. The money you spend will go towards making the local San Marcos community blossom. Most vendors accept both cash and card. On Tuesdays from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m., we're on East Hopkins Street, right next to the Hitch Mobile Eatery. From 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. every Saturday, the farmers market is held between LBJ and Guadalupe on San Antonio Street. For more information, visit the San Marcos Farmers Market website.
Welcome back. The state legislature is debating the budget, and Studio A's Chris Solis tells us how one item on the budget drew thousands to the Capitol. Let's check it out.
The day started like any other at the Capitol building in Austin, and then more than 1,000 activists showed up in pink.
We will not back down!
The rally comes after the U.S. Senate voted to give states the right to deny federal funding to groups like Planned Parenthood. Budget proposals in the Texas legislature would bar Planned Parenthood from providing services and from participating in taxpayer-funded programs. The group Planned Parenthood Texas Votes held the rally with people from all over Texas in attendance.
And they're letting the folks who are here know that if they aren't listening to them, if they're voting against our interests, against our health, against our values, we're going to hold them accountable at the ballot box.
The speakers at the rally included a doctor, organizers, and women affected by the lack of healthcare availability in their areas.
The politicians don't need to butt into the relationship between a provider and a woman. It's not right.
This event was more than just a rally. It was to educate people on how to talk to their representatives.
People want to be part of the political process, but a lot of times we just don't know how. And I think events like this are important because you build those stepping stones.
Supporters went inside the Capitol after the rally to meet with their representatives and make their cases against the proposals in the legislature heard.
But these are fights that are worth waging, and we're going to make sure that every time there's a battle about women's health care on the line, we're going to show up and we're going to demand to be heard.
No matter what. God bless you all. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much, Chris. The House has since submitted their budget, which includes blocking state funding to groups like Planned Parenthood. The House and Senate must work together to create a single state budget for the next 2 years. So it's a sensitive subject, but stereotypes exist, and I'm sure we've all experienced it at some point. Holly, this is your story. What made you want to cover this subject?
I've always been really interested in stereotypes and how, so many people think that just by looking at someone based on their skin color or gender or sexual orientation, that you can know who they are and what they like and their personality. And so that's always interested me. And with recent events on campus, I've really wanted to take a deeper look at that.
Cool. Well, let's go ahead and take a look.
It'd be weird if we Don't judge a book by its cover. For most people, it's easier said than done.
One of the biggest stereotypes I feel is like they don't think I'm smart. I'm expected to be good at math. I expect to speak another language.
I definitely find that people expect me to just be in the world and not do great things.
Stereotypes can have a strong effect on the way people act and view themselves, which some students say can get in the way of learning opportunities.
If I speak my opinion, people are going to stereotype my opinion with how I look. They're going to call me racist and stuff, so I feel like I kind of can't really speak my opinion without being judged by like the majority of the class.
Stereotypes are a problem all over the world, and Texas State is no exception. Flyers have been posted around campus since late last year from the white nationalist group American Vanguard. These flyers call for white people to take their country back.
I was scared. Like, I talked to my parents and they were like, please don't speak Spanish on campus.
It made me realize that there are people here trying to tear us apart from the inside out, and it's just important to build a strong community with trust.
As much as I wish I could change people's outlook on others, I think everybody's on their own opinion, but it would be nice to see people, respect others for who they are.
Even though the flyers were meant to divide the campus, students are coming together to show that a bobcat is a bobcat, regardless of race.
We're all our own different colors, and I think it's beautiful that this campus is so diverse. It definitely opens my mindset, and coming here has just showed me that when we all come together, like, nothing can stop us.
That's a very interesting story, Holly. The people that you talked to, how did they feel about sharing their experiences with stereotypes?
Everyone that I talked to was really willing to talk about the stereotypes that they face and that they feel people place on them. But I did notice a difference from when I first started talking to them, when I was miking them up and things like that, to when they started talking about how the stereotypes make them feel and how it affects their everyday lives. People were happy to talk about it, but they were getting emotional. You could see it in their eyes, you could hear it in their voice. It really did start to affect them.
And from those people that you spoke to, what did you find that they had in common?
I found out that, we all know that stereotypes affect the way that you view yourselves. Everyone says that all the time. But talking to people back to back from different heritages, different genders, everything like that, you really start to notice how much it really affects the way that they view themselves, and you see people start to beat themselves down a little bit from the way that people perceive them and people who have never met them. It really starts to take an effect on them.
So what was the most interesting thing you kind of found when you were covering this story?
One of the best things I found was that everyone that I talked to, even with the flyers that were saying, white people need to take their country back, everyone was happy to be a part of Texas State. Everyone was happy to be a Bobcat. It really is a community. No one thought that the flyers represented the entire community and that Texas State didn't want them there. Everyone really viewed it as kind of like an outlying situation. Well, why would they do that to us? We're all Bobcats, we're all here, we're a family. And I thought that was fantastic.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for that story, Holly. San Marcos is gaining more places to live, but how is that affecting new musicians? Find out more coming up next.
The Main Street program works with local businesses to make downtown a place for you to love. Named most romantic Main Street in the U.S. Home to local restaurants, shops, and businesses. Friendly faces await, so stop in and say hi. San Marcos may be growing, but will always be a small town at heart. Shop, eat, study, and play downtown. For information and events, find the Main Street program on the City of San Marcos website. The San Marcos Main Street program. Love local, shop downtown.
The construction of yet again another apartment complex is in place, but before the bulldozers came in, Triple Crown was San Marcos' go-to place for local musicians. Studio A's Janelle Abad tells us more.
Just south of the live music capital of the world is San Marcos, a town where the music scene is adapting to some major changes. Since the close of Triple Crown, a venue that was once the heart of the city's music scene, artists are scrambling to find another reliable venue.
I miss like the culture that Triple Crown brought, and I don't know, just sense of like a home and sense of people in this room have been rocking out in San Marcos for years, and we will like continue that, and that's what I loved about it. And now it's just kind of, you know, you find a stage and you find somebody to, you know, amp it for you, and that's about it. That's all that matters here now.
With the void left by Triple Crown's closing, smaller scale venues have risen to the challenge. Kiva, Wake the Dead, and Valentino's have all opened their doors to musicians within the past year.
Although venues have given local musicians a cushion, musicians still feel the need to do it themselves.
The DIY spirit has made house shows and neighborhood festivals favorable to both attendees and artists alike.
We kind of just do our own grassroots. Since there's not a place now, that's what it's come to. Like the funnest shows that I've done and like seen are always like someone's just like, yeah, let's do it in my house, whatever. Like we don't need all this fancy equipment. We can just like throw down.
Stay tuned next week as Janelle reports on yet again another San Marcos music staple at risk of closing. Coming up next, we'll take you to the world of bees, and we'll take a trip to Austin, where you'll be surprised to find farms in the big city. Stay tuned.
For 25 years, KTSW has brought the best in indie and local music to Texas State, San Marcos, and the surrounding areas. Over the years, KTSW has expanded its programming to include not only syndicated shows, but original programming, like Bobcat Radio, Texas State's only weekly sports talk show. From rock to hip-hop, no matter your taste in music, KTSW has something for everyone. If you can't make the game, KTSW broadcasts all Texas State athletics as well as San Marcos High School football. KTSW's award-winning news department keeps you up to date on breaking local and national news. If live music is more your style, join KTSW for its monthly event, Third Thursday. Did I mention it's free? So tune in and give us a listen. KTSW, the other side of radio.
Welcome back. They may be pesky, but we depend on them for food, and in recent years they've been in decline. Imari, you had the opportunity to cover a class where people had they wanted to become beekeepers?
Yeah, absolutely. At first when I saw the class, I thought about it and I was like, you know, who's going to be a beekeeper in the city of Austin? But I really did learn a lot of new interesting facts from the introduction class.
Very cool. Let's go ahead and check that out.
Earlier this year, for the first time in the U.S., a bee species found itself on the endangered species list. But what's the bee decline buzz about? Without the pollination of bees, 1/3 of the fresh food supply in the U.S. would be lost.
Keeping honeybees has really just introduced me to a world that I don't think I ever would have paid attention to otherwise. I'm much more interested now in what we can do to ensure preservation of our native plants and our soil.
Beekeeping associations like Two Hives Honey, based out of Austin, are pushing for extermination alternatives and encouraging education on bee rescue and preservation to help save hives. Landowners gathered at Crafts in Austin, where they took their first steps to becoming urban beekeepers, which is hobby or backyard beekeeping. These aspiring beekeepers are learning everything they need to know about honeybees before they're ready to get into the field. Some students were beginners or current beekeepers. There were also attendees who called for help with hive removal and wanted to learn more.
I enjoy watching them flying out of the hives. It's just one of those things I get up every morning and say hello to my ladies.
That's very cool. Can you tell us a little bit about why honeybee preservation is so important?
Yeah, so it's really common to, when people think about honeybees, they think about them making honey or royal jelly or just, beeswax and things like that. But honestly, I feel like it's easy to forget about the fact that bees are pollinators and, they pollinate a good amount of our natural food resources. And, even recently, companies like, Cheerios are taking their Buzz Bee off of the box to kind of create awareness for bee, conservation and preservation.
Did all the attendees have the same experience?
They actually didn't. There were people that were there to learn more about the class, some people that had hives and that just wanted a refresher course, and then, the last gentleman that we interviewed, Robert, he's what they call as an accidental beekeeper. So him and his wife had a hive and they called for help with it and they just fell in love, and now he said he has over 6 hives.
Did you learn anything new about honeybees?
Yeah, so something that was cool is that at the beginning of the class, they broke a lot of myths. So something that I learned that was interesting was that, bees, originally they come from wasps, but unlike wasps, honeybees are not predators. So when you see, a picture, a photo of someone kind of with bees on them, kind of covered up with bees, it's because they're docile and they're just looking for kind of either a queen or something to protect.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for that story, Imari. We stay indoors for our next story, where Studio A's Kelly Bechtel takes us to a farm that supports local food needs right in the heart of Austin.
It's a site that's fairly common in Texas. But Springdale Farm is uncommonly located in East Austin, just 3 miles from the capital.
One of the reasons they're here is because this is all river bottom soil, which is unique to this part of town, and it's better soil than any place else.
And from this soil, 5 acres total, this sustainable urban farm grows more than 75 different seasonal vegetables and produce. They sell their harvest at their popular farm stand every Wednesday and Saturday. They even sell handmade goods made from items grown on the farm, such as lip balm and the well-known Ellie Mae working dog soap, named after the farm's dog, Ellie.
We dug even deeper into the soil to find that Springdale is rooted in community.
Springdale works closely with many local chefs to bring crisp, natural food straight to the table at local restaurants.
What I didn't know when we started was what a sense of community there would be about it. I thought I would plant seeds and they would grow, but there's people here. There's people here all the time.
The farm offers a volunteer opportunity where people work a shift in trade for fresh veggies and produce.
It's awesome that people can just walk over from their house, walk the farm and see where the food is grown and talk to the farmers and know how it's grown.
Just people come together over food. Always have.
In addition to Springdale Farm, there are 3 others within walking distance, and they all benefit from the great riverbed soil. Now we're going to take a trip down to San Antonio, where I had the opportunity to cover an event where the community comes out and brings out their wheels to have fun. The streets were blocked off and the community came out with their wheels rolling. Ciclovia is a citywide event that encourages the community to come out and exercise in downtown San Antonio.
It is important, and I will say, because I hear that San Antonio has a high obesity rate, just trying to get out into the community, take advantage of the parks that are out there, and eat healthier and enjoy what I guess San Antonio is providing for us.
Now that it's getting warmer, the bikes are coming out and people are looking for ways to break a sweat.
The San Antonio bicycle community shows so much love. So I want them to come out and feel the love, like truly, because of everything that's going on in their neighborhoods and throughout society as a whole. I figured this would be the perfect place, as well as get them out and get them fit without having to say, hey kids, let's go out and get healthy. So.
Definitely there are kids out there that aren't in a good place, but I think to just bring them here, you know what I'm saying, where they can forget everything. It's like I use this as a getaway to my troubles sometimes, but not just to close the event, like bikes, role models, you know what I'm saying.
So this event was actually really cool because I got the opportunity to just really see people of all ages come together and just have fun.
And what kind of activities did people do at the event?
Well, besides just the usual being on their bikes, I saw a lot of people on scooters. They also were having like Zumba classes, and then they also had just people, doing just like jumping jacks in the middle of the street. It was really cool.
How often do they have Ciclovia?
They have it twice a year, and pretty much it's just a citywide event. They close down some busy intersections in the middle of downtown, and then people just come out and they bring out their bikes and they have fun.
And guys, don't forget, that's an alternative transportation option too.
It is. And speaking of transportation, we're going to go ahead and roll on out. That is all that we have for you today. I want to thank our guests. Thank you so much for being here with us. Imari Mora, Daniel Herrera, Rebecca Mendoza, and Holly Henrichsen. I'm your host, Adriana Ruiz, and join us again next week for our final episode of Studio A.